My son texted, "Don't call me anymore. I'm tired of you and your requests." I said nothing. 2 months later, he called, "Dad, my wife and I urgently need rent money." I replied, "I'm sorry. I don't know who you are. I don't have a son," and hung up. The next day, he showed up at my door with flowers and apologies. I didn't let him in. 2 months after that, police arrested him. The truth destroyed everything I believed about my son. He had done things I never imagined possible. I'm glad you're here with me. Please like this video and listen to my story till the end. Let me know which city you're watching from. I want to see how far my story travels. Don't call me anymore. I'm tired of you and your requests. I stared at the text message, reading it 3 times. Each time the words cut deeper. Your requests? In 35 years as a surgeon, I'd learned to read what patients didn't say. But this what request had I ever made of my son. I set the phone down and didn't pick it up again that night. The house in Lawrenceville felt too quiet, the way it always did. I'd spent most of my life at Allegheny General Hospital, chief of surgery for the last decade before retiring at 62. The OR was where I belonged, fixing things, saving people. But my son, I couldn't seem to fix that. Marcus's mother left when he was 7, said she couldn't do it anymore, the long hours raising a kid alone while I was in surgery. I tried to make up for it, worked harder, gave Marcus everything: college tuition, security deposits, car repairs, medical bills when Tiffany had that emergency, legal fees he never explained. Always something urgent, always necessary. And I always said yes, because that's what fathers do. You provide, you fix problems. Except somewhere along the way, the calls stopped being, "Hi, Dad, how are you?" and became, "Dad, we need help with." I didn't respond to his text. Just sat there until dark, wondering when I'd become a burden to my own son. The first week of silence was brutal. I'd reach for my phone, constantly thumb hovering over his contact. Something always stopped me. Week 2, I had chest pains. Drove myself to the ER, just stress, they said. I sat there alone in a paper gown, electrodes on my chest, and realized there was no one to call. Marcus hadn't spoken to me in 2 weeks. My ex-wife was in Arizona. My parents were gone. So I called no one. Weeks 3 and 4, I buried myself in the free clinic. I'd been volunteering there since retirement, Pittsburgh Free Clinic in the Hill District. Uninsured folks, homeless people who'd fallen through the cracks. Nobody there cared that I used to be chief of surgery. They just needed help, and they thanked me. Actually looked me in the eye and meant it. Week 5, I met Chuck Ramirez. My neighbor lived 3 houses down, drove a pickup with an electrician's logo. Found me at the hardware store looking lost. "You look like a man about to make an expensive mistake," he said, eyeing my cart. He fixed my garbage disposal for the price of a beer. We sat on my back porch drinking Iron City, and I told him about Marcus. "My nephew pulled the same thing on my sister," Chuck said. "Bled her dry for years. She finally cut him off." "How'd that go?" "Hard at first, but the kid got his act together eventually," he shrugged. "They talk now. It's different, but healthier." I watched the sun set over Pittsburgh's skyline, the bridges lighting up in the distance, and didn't say anything. By week 8, something had changed. I wasn't waiting for the phone anymore. Just lived. Clinic shifts. Coffee with Chuck on Saturdays. I slept better. I felt lighter, like I'd been holding my breath for years and finally remembered how to exhale. Then on a Tuesday evening in early July, my phone rang. Marcus. My finger hovered over the screen. 8 weeks of peace. 8 weeks of not being reduced to a checkbook with a pulse. The surgeon in me wanted to answer immediately, to fix whatever was broken, to be the father who'd always been there. But that other part, the part that had grown stronger over 2 months of silence, hesitated. Because somewhere deep in my gut, in that place where surgeons learn to trust their instincts, I knew answering this call would change everything, and not in the way I'd hoped. I pressed answer. "Dad, thank God." Marcus's voice came through fast, breathless. No hello, no asking how I'd been. "We need $3,000 by Friday. The rent. We're getting evicted if we don't." "Marcus." I kept my voice level the way I did in the OR when things started going sideways. "When's the last time you called me without needing money?" Silence. Then, "Dad, seriously, this isn't the time for..." "It's a simple question. We're about to be homeless. Can we talk about this after you get the money?" Something cold settled in my chest. 35 years of fixing other people's emergencies, and I could suddenly see this one with perfect clarity. That's how it always works, isn't it? What's that supposed to mean? It means I'm tired, Marcus. I'm tired of being someone you only remember exists when your wallet's empty. That's not fair. You told me not to call you anymore, that you were tired of me and my requests. I let that hang there. What requests, Marcus? What have I ever asked of you? The pause stretched long enough that I thought he'd hung up. Then look, I was stressed. I didn't mean. You meant it. The words came out quieter than I intended. And you know what? That's fine. You're 35 years old. You don't owe me your time or attention. But I don't owe you $3,000 either. Dad, I'm sorry. I don't know who you are. I don't have a son who speaks to me that way. I hung up. My hands were shaking, but not from fear. From something else. Something that felt almost like power. The phone started ringing immediately. I let it. It rang again. And again. By the time I counted 15 calls in the first hour, I turned it off completely. I sat at my kitchen table as the evening light faded, staring at the dark screen. What had I just done? Said no. That's what. For the first time I couldn't remember how long I'd said no to my son. Part of me wanted to call back, apologize, wire the money like always. That's what the old Frank would have done. The Frank who'd spent 35 years in the OR, fixing problems, saving lives, making everything right. But the new Frank, the one who'd spent 8 weeks learning how to breathe without waiting for the phone to ring, that Frank stayed in his chair. I didn't sleep much that night. Kept reaching for my phone, then remembering I'd turned it off, wondering if Marcus was okay, if he was angry, if he was scared, wondering if I cared. That thought stopped me cold around 3 a.m. Did I care? Of course I did. He was my son. But maybe caring didn't mean fixing. Maybe caring meant letting him figure it out. I'd tell that to patients' families all the time. Sometimes the body has to heal itself. Sometimes intervention does more harm than good. Maybe that applied to more than just surgery. When dawn finally broke, I turned my phone back on. 47 missed calls. 32 text messages. I didn't read them. Not yet. In the OR, you don't treat symptoms before you understand the disease. You assess. You gather data. You look at the full picture. I needed to see the full picture. I made coffee strong black the way I'd learned to drink it during residency and opened my laptop. Logged into my bank's website. My hand hovered over the mouse for a moment. Did I really want to know? The surgeon in me answered, You always want to know, even when it hurts. I clicked into my account history and started scrolling. The numbers loaded slowly, like they didn't want to tell me what I already knew. I opened Excel old habits from tracking surgical outcomes and started building a spreadsheet. Date. Amount. Reason given. 6 years of transactions starting right when Marcus married Tiffany. Security deposit $18,000. Just need help getting started, Dad. Medical emergency $9,500. Tiffany's name on the memo. No diagnosis ever mentioned. Car repair $400. Legal fees $8,500. Marcus never explained. Credit cards, furniture, rent. Always urgent, always the last time. My cursor moved to the bottom row. I already knew, but seeing it was different, like the difference between suspecting a tumor and seeing it on the scan. Total $82,000. I sat back. In the OR, I'd seen patients lose that much blood and survive. This felt worse. 6 years of bleeding I'd never let myself notice. Time to check the messages. Marcus started, almost polite. Dad, this isn't funny. Then we're serious about the rent. Then call me back. Then Tiffany's messages began. First, sweet, hi, Frank. Marcus is really worried about you. Can we talk? Hours later, frustrated. This is really cruel. We're in a bad situation, and you're ignoring us. Then she dropped the mask. You're a bitter old man. Marcus only stayed in touch because I told him he should. He wanted to cut you off years ago. You should be grateful we even bothered with you. I read it 3 times. Screenshot. Save. Document. Evidence-based practice, even when the evidence guts you. There it was in writing. I wasn't his father. I was an ATM, and Tiffany had been running the operation. More messages piled up. Threats mixed with guilt trips. The final one from Marcus. Fine. Don't come crying to us when you're old and need help. I took screenshots of everything. The surgeon in me knew document what matters. My phone rang. Chuck. I'd called him earlier in a fog. Still good for me to come by? Yeah. 10 minutes later, he was at my table scrolling through the messages. His jaw tightened with each swipe. I told you 6 months ago something was off with that girl. You did. I poured him coffee. You were right. He set the phone down carefully. How much? I turned the laptop toward him. He whistled low. 82,000. Since he married her. Chuck studied me. Tomorrow morning, first thing we're going to the bank. Chuck. First thing, his voice was firm, you remove him from your accounts. All of them. Then you call a lawyer. I'm 65, not 90. Financial exploitation doesn't check your birthday, Frank. He tapped the table. This isn't your son asking for help. This is something else. I stared at the spreadsheet. $82,000. How many surgeries had I performed to earn that? How many lives saved while this one relationship bled out? Okay, I said finally. Tomorrow, the bank. Chuck squeezed my shoulder. Get some rest. Tomorrow we start fixing this. After he left, I sat alone in my kitchen laptop, still open numbers, still glowing. Some things can't be fixed, I thought. Sometimes you just have to stop the bleeding and hope the patient survives. Chuck picked me up at 8 Thursday morning. We didn't talk much on the drive, just the radio murmuring about the Steelers, the comfortable silence of people who don't need words to fill space. The banker was professional unsurprised. I'd seen that look before on nurses who'd worked the ER too long. I need my son removed from all my accounts. She nodded, started typing. He'll receive notification in 5 business days. I'll flag everything for suspicious activity. 5 days. A countdown. Outside, Chuck lit a cigarette. My wife already called Linda Carter, elder law attorney. She's expecting your email. By afternoon, I'd sent Linda everything bank statements, screenshots, timeline. She called back fast. Mr. Morrison, this is textbook financial exploitation, but I'll warn you, when you cut someone off, they escalate. Be prepared. The escalation came Tuesday morning. 5 days exactly. Marcus had gotten the bank's letter. The pounding started at 11. I was ready chain lock on Chuck, inside as witness. I opened the door 6 inches. Marcus looked tired, but presentable wrinkled polo jeans stubble. Tiffany stepped forward, first blonde ponytail swinging, dressed for brunch. Frank, what the hell? Marcus's voice cracked. The bank said you removed me. I did. We're family. You can't protect my own money. Tiffany went sugar sweet. Can we please come inside and talk like adults? No. Marcus pushed against the chain. Do you know what life costs? Dad, what rent is. Something in me went surgical cold the way it did when things started going wrong in the OR, and you had to choose precision over panic. I raised you alone on a surgeon's salary, Marcus. 80-hour weeks, Christmas mornings in the OR. Yes, I know what life costs. That was different. How because you were a child, then, because I was supposed to provide forever? Tiffany's mask cracked. You're sitting here with retirement money, while your son... I held up my phone. Screen out. Tiffany's text message visible. Marcus only stayed in touch because I told him he should. Her face went white. Marcus squinted at the screen. What's that? The truth. That you wanted to cut me off years ago. That you only stayed in touch because she told you to. I kept my voice level. I have screenshots, Marcus. Dated. Saved. Your wife's words. Dad, she didn't... In writing. Tiffany grabbed his arm. We're leaving. Now. Something flickered across Marcus's face. Confusion, maybe the first crack in whatever story he'd been believing. This is my property, I said quietly. You need to leave. Tiffany's heels clicked down the steps. Marcus followed like a man walking through fog, glancing back once before she pulled him toward their car. I closed the door, chain back in place. Chuck appeared from the kitchen. That's just the opening move. I know. Different approach next time. I know. He squeezed my shoulder. You did the right thing. But standing there in my entryway door, locked against my own son, I wasn't entirely sure what right looked like anymore. Just that it felt necessary. Like stopping the bleeding before assessing whether the patient would survive. The letter arrived Saturday, 6 days after they'd left my porch. Handwritten, Marcus's messy scrawl. I almost didn't open it. But the surgeon in me, one you don't ignore symptoms. 3 pages. Apologetic, vulnerable. Dad, I've been thinking. I was wrong. Stress made me say things I didn't mean. Then the hook. Tiffany's been diagnosed with something serious. Medical bills are crushing us. If we could get 10,000, we could get back on our feet. I promise I'll pay you back, with interest. I read it twice, looking for what wasn't there. No diagnosis, no hospital, no doctor. Just something serious. I called Linda. Classic manipulation, she said immediately. Aggression failed now, it's sympathy. Notice what's missing. If she were truly ill, he'd give specifics, diagnosis, hospital doctor's name. Vague equals lie. I felt foolish. I'm a doctor. I should have caught that. You're also a father. That evening I walked next door. Harold Jennings was on his porch pirate's cap, sweating through the shade. 70-something widower. I'd removed his gallbladder 15 years back. Got a minute? He gestured to the empty chair, came back with 2 iron cities. I told him everything, condensed version. Harold listened, peeling his bottle label. My daughter did the same. 10 years, 40 grand. Only called when she needed something. What did you do? Cut her off 3 years ago. Hardest thing I ever did. He took a long pull. But she got a real job after a year. Stopped the chaos. We talk now, different, but healthier. What if Marcus doesn't come around? Harold looked at me straight. Then you'll know who he is. And Frank, you'll survive? I did. Something in my chest loosened. 3 weeks after the first visit, they returned. Sunday afternoon. Marcus holding grocery store carnations. Tiffany in jeans and a soft sweater, looking harmless. I cracked the door. Chain on. Dad, please. Just 5 minutes. Marcus's voice softer now. We want to really apologize. We've been in therapy, Tiffany added. Couples therapy. Our therapist suggested we come. What's your therapist's name? Brief pause. Dr. Morrison, in Columbus. Morrison? I raised my eyebrows. My last name. It's a common. There's no therapist. You're lying. The masks dropped. Fine. Tiffany's sweetness evaporated. We're about to lose everything. You're hoarding money while your son... I work 40 hours a week. Dad, Marcus's voice cracked. It's not enough? Then where does the money go, Marcus? Silence. His mouth open closed. Nothing. In 35 years of surgery, I'd learned to recognize when a story stopped adding up. Timeline that didn't fit. Symptoms contradicting history. This was that moment. Marcus's face twisted. I hope you rot alone. When you die, I won't even come to your funeral. He turned. Tiffany already walking away. I closed the door, threw the carnations in the trash, stood in my kitchen hands, trembling not from fear, from relief, maybe, or exhaustion. My phone rang. Unknown number. My stomach dropped. Just instinct. The kind you develop when you know some calls change everything, I answered. Mr. Morrison, this is Nicole Graham from Adult Protective Services. The woman's voice was professional, careful, the kind that delivered bad news for a living. Yes. We've received a report expressing concern about your welfare, allegations of cognitive decline and unsafe financial decision-making. I need to schedule a home visit. So this was their next move. Mrs. Graham, I assure you I'm of sound mind. This is retaliation after I protected my finances from exploitation. I understand. These are serious allegations on both sides. Tomorrow at 10, my attorney will be present. That's your right, I called Linda immediately. She wasn't surprised. If they prove you're incompetent, Marcus gets power of attorney and access to everything. We'll be ready. Tuesday at 10, Nicole Graham arrived. 40-something professional carrying a tablet, and the expression of someone who'd seen every family nightmare. Linda was already in my living room. Mr. Morrison, this isn't adversarial, Nicole began. Our goal is ensuring safety of vulnerable adults. I understand. I spent 35 years as a surgeon. I'm comfortable being assessed. 90 minutes of questions. Daily routine finances, health medications, how I spent my days. I answered like presenting at grand rounds, precise, factual. Then I showed documentation, bank statements highlighting the pattern, text messages including Tiffany's admission Marcus wanted to cut me off, recent physical noting excellent cognitive function. Linda added legal context. My client recognized exploitation and took appropriate protective measures. Nicole reviewed everything, took extensive notes. Finally, Mr. Morrison, in my professional opinion, you are clearly of sound mind. You're articulate, organized, and took reasonable protective steps. Relief washed through me. I'll file a report finding no evidence of cognitive decline. She paused. However, I'm also filing a separate report documenting what appears to be financial exploitation and harassment. This goes to the authorities. At my door, she added quietly, "Your son will be contacted. He'll know this failed. Please be careful. These situations escalate." 4 days later, an unknown number called. I didn't answer. Tiffany's voicemail was pure rage. "You think you've won. You've declared war. We're going to destroy you. Everyone will know what kind of selfish old man you are. We have evidence, texts, emails, everything. You're done." I forwarded it to Nicole. Her response came fast. "This is exactly what we needed. Save everything. This constitutes harassment and supports elder abuse concerns." 10 days later, a certified letter arrived. Addressed to Marcus and Tiffany Morrison, sent to my address. They'd been using it on documents. Return address, Regional Eviction Court, Allegheny County. I held the envelope, then set it on my counter. Not mine to open, but I knew what it meant. Evicted. Not because of me, but because of what they'd failed to do. Pay rent, take responsibility. Natural consequences finally catching up. I should have felt vindication, victory. Instead, I just felt lighter. Like I'd been carrying weight so long, I'd forgotten what standing straight felt like. I made coffee and sat at my kitchen table. Afternoon light through the windows. My house, my peace. My life on my terms. The eviction notice sat on the counter unclaimed. Their problem, not mine. That simple truth felt like breaking the surface after being underwater too long. 1 week after the eviction notice, Marcus showed up alone. 6 in the evening. I saw him through the window before he knocked, standing on my porch, like he wasn't sure he belonged there. I opened the door. No chain this time. Tiffany wasn't with him. He looked destroyed. Unwashed hair, hollow eyes, wearing the same stained flannel from weeks ago. Days of stubble, maybe more. "Dad," his voice was raw. "Please." "Where's Tiffany?" "I don't know. Her mom's, maybe." He swayed slightly. "We're living in my car. Everything's in a storage unit we can't pay for. We have nowhere." "I'm sorry to hear that." "You're sorry?" His voice cracked. "This is because of you. You cut us off. You cut yourself off, Marcus, when you told me not to call, when you only reached out for money. I have a job, 40 hours a week, desperation bleeding through. But rent costs. Then where does the money go?" The question hung between us. His mouth opened, closed, nothing. In the OR, I'd learned to recognize that exact moment when someone realized they had no answer for the question that mattered most. "You're my father." His voice dropped to a whisper. "Doesn't that mean anything?" My chest tightened, but I held steady. It meant everything. For 35 years, being your father was my whole identity. I kept my voice level. "But you made it clear I was only valuable when I had money. That's not a father, Marcus. That's an ATM with a pulse." Something flickered across his face. Not anger. Recognition, maybe. Or exhaustion. "When's the last time you called just to talk?" I asked quietly. "Visited without needing something." He couldn't answer. "You're 35. You have options, social services, shelters, friends. What you don't have is me funding a life you won't take responsibility for." His face crumbled, then hardened. "When you're dying alone, remember this." He walked to his car, beat-up Honda with blankets visible in the back. Sat there head against the steering wheel before driving away. I closed the door, feeling like I'd performed surgery without anesthesia. On both of us. 2 months passed. September came cool and gray. I found Rhythm Clinic 3 days weekly coffee with Chuck on Saturdays. Harold bringing garden vegetables. Life quieter, but somehow fuller. Then Linda called. "Frank, sit down." My chest tightened. "What happened?" "Marcus and Tiffany were arrested this morning." The room tilted. "For what capta?" "Fraud. Identity theft. 3 credit cards in your name. $52,000. I couldn't speak. "They'd been making minimum payments with your money. When you cut them off, cards defaulted. Investigation started." She paused. "Frank, there's more." "Tell me." "Investigators found Marcus's phone computer bank records. They know where the money really went." I gripped the phone tighter. "Marcus has a severe gambling addiction, online poker sports betting, accounts going back years." Her voice softened. "Over 40,000 of the 82,000 you gave him went directly to gambling debts and bookies." The room went silent except for my breathing. Text messages showed Tiffany knew. She was using it to control him. Linda's words came careful now. Her messages to Marcus. Get the money from your father, or I'll tell everyone. You'll lose your job. I'll leave you. Get the money. She was blackmailing him. Blackmailing. The prosecutor's considering the addiction and coercion as mitigating factors. Frank, your son, is... She chose words carefully. He's both an abuser and a victim here. After hanging up, I sat at my kitchen table for a long time. Marcus wasn't just weak. He was sick, addicted. And Tiffany had weaponized that sickness, turned it into a tool to bleed me dry. $40,000 feeding slot machines and card tables, while I believed I was helping with medical bills and rent. The surgeon in me understood addiction as disease. Treated it in the ER countless times, the desperation, the lying, the destruction. The father in me felt hollowed out. How do you save someone drowning when they won't grab the rope? When someone else keeps pushing their head underwater, I'd spent 35 years in the OR fixing what was broken, finding solutions, saving lives. But this, my own son trapped between addiction and a predator who'd found his weakness and exploited it ruthlessly. I didn't know how to fix this. For the first time in my surgical career, I was looking at a problem with no clear intervention, no protocol, no procedure that would make this right. Some patients you save, some you lose. I just hadn't expected my son to be the one I couldn't reach. 2 days later, court documents arrived via email. I opened the file labeled Tiffany Morrison Criminal History. Not her first offense. Prior fraud convictions in Ohio and West Virginia. A pattern spanning a decade. 2 previous victims, both men in their 30s with aging parents who had savings. In each case, Tiffany married, in drained resources, vanished when the money dried up. Linda called as I read. You see it. She's done this before. This is what she does, Frank. This is her career. Her voice hardened. Marcus was just another Mark. The sentencing came 2 months later. I attended sitting in the back of the courtroom. Marcus, 3 years. First offense, cooperation, gambling addiction, as mitigating factor. Tiffany, 5 years. Prior record, orchestration, blackmail evidence. As they led Marcus out, he looked back once. Our eyes met. I saw something I hadn't seen in years, my son, not her puppet. Just a second. Then the door closed. That night I sent $50 to Marcus's commissary account. Once. Not monthly. Just once. Note attached, for necessities. Nothing more. Then silence. No letters. No visits. Boundary held. Months passed. Fall to winter. I worked the clinic, had Thanksgiving with Chuck's family, started building a bookshelf for Harold. Life moved forward. February came. Marcus had been locked up 4 months. A fellow inmate showed him something on a smuggled phone common enough in county jails. Tiffany's Facebook page. Status, in a relationship. Photos. Tiffany smiling with a new man. Mid-40s, clean-cut polo shirt. Comments underneath, so happy for you. The photos dated back 6 weeks after Marcus's arrest. One caption, new beginnings. A comment asked, does he have family here? Tiffany's reply, yes, his dad lives in Ross Township. Ross Township, Pittsburgh suburb, retirement area. Marcus had the inmates search the man's name from the photo tags. Results appeared fast. The boyfriend's father was 78, widower, living alone. Paid off house, the exact same pattern. Marcus checked her relationship history. Divorce filed 1 week after his arrest. Finalized 6 weeks later. She hadn't even waited. That night, Marcus wrote a letter. His handwriting shook tear stains visible on the paper. Dad, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't expect you to write back, but I need you to know I finally understand. Tiffany didn't love me. She used me the way I used you. My gambling, I was ashamed. When she found out, she weaponized it. Every dollar you gave, she controlled where it went. If I didn't get more, she threatened to expose me, destroy everything. I'm not innocent. I hurt you. Said terrible things. But I see now how she manipulated me. How she manipulates everyone. She's already with someone new. His father's old, alone, has money. Same cons, same lies. I'm sorry for everything. I don't know if sorry is enough. When I get out, I don't expect anything. I just hope someday you can think of me without anger. I love you. I should have said it more. Marcus. The letter arrived on a Tuesday. I read it 3 times at my kitchen table, coffee going cold beside me. Part of me wanted to respond immediately. Pour out the hurt, the betrayal, the complicated mess of still loving someone who'd wounded you. Part of me wanted to crumple it up. Instead, I folded it carefully and placed it in my desk drawer. Maybe someday we'd talk, rebuild something from the wreckage. But not today. Today I had a bookshelf to finish. Coffee with Chuck tomorrow, clinic Thursday. A life that was mine. Hard won, carefully protected. The letter could wait. In 35 years of medicine, I'd learned that healing couldn't be rushed. Some wounds needed time. Some needed distance. This one needed both. 6 months after the arrests, 1 full year since I'd told Marcus, I don't have a son, I stood in my kitchen making coffee for 5 people. Not something I'd done in years, maybe ever. Chuck was bringing cinnamon rolls from the bakery on Butler Street. Harold promised the last tomatoes from his garden. Linda was stopping by after her morning run. And Phil from the clinic, retired postal worker, with terrible jokes that somehow always landed, had become part of this group. My calendar on the fridge showed the new rhythm clinic, Tuesdays and Thursdays, coffee with Chuck Wednesdays, Harold's porch Friday evenings, Montana trip circled in red, 2 weeks in September Glacier National Park. Something I'd wanted to do for 20 years and never had. The doorbell rang. Chuck arrived first white bakery box under his arm. Steelers look good this year, he said. They always do in August. Harold came with vegetables, Linda in workout gear. Phil launched into a story about his grandson's Little League game that had everyone laughing. We gathered around my dining room table, the same table that had sat empty every Thanksgiving, every Christmas, when Marcus had been too busy to visit. Now it was full, not with blood obligation, but with people who showed up because they wanted to, who brought rolls and vegetables and asked how I was doing and listened to the answer. How you holding up, Frank? Linda asked. Really? Good. Better than I've been in years. It was true. My bank account had grown more in 6 months than it had in 6 years of bleeding money to Marcus. I'd finished the bookshelf, for Harold started a chessboard for Chuck. The clinic had made me volunteer coordinator. Less physical strain, more organizing. You hear from him? Chuck asked carefully. He never said Marcus's name. He wrote. Couple months back? You respond? Not yet. Maybe someday. Maybe not. I shrugged. I'm okay either way. The letter stayed in my desk drawer. Some days I thought about opening it again. Some days I forgot it was there. After everyone left, I cleaned up and stepped onto my back porch with fresh coffee. Late afternoon sun slanted across Pittsburgh's skyline. The bridges were starting to light up rivers reflecting copper and gold. My phone sat on the table beside me, silent. I wasn't waiting for it to ring. For 35 years I'd defined myself by taking care of others. First in the OR, fixing what was broken, saving lives. Then with Marcus trying to be everything he needed giving until there was nothing left. Somewhere in all that I'd forgotten how to just be frank. These people, Chuck, Harold, Linda, Phil, they didn't need me to fix them or fund them or save them. They just liked my company. Showed up with cinnamon rolls and tomatoes and expected nothing but conversation. That was enough, more than enough. People say blood is thicker than water. But the full quote is, the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. The bonds we choose are stronger than the ones we're born into. I chose to be Marcus's father for 35 years. He chose to see me as an ATM with a pulse. Now I was choosing myself, and the people who chose me back. Maybe Marcus would get help. Prison had mandatory addiction counseling. Whether it worked, that was up to him now, not me. Maybe someday we'd sit down as 2 adults and have an honest conversation. Or maybe the letter in my drawer would be our last word. I'd made peace with both possibilities. In surgery, I'd learned that some patients you save, some you lose. Some you have to step back from and let heal on their own or not at all. You can't force recovery. You can only create the conditions and hope. Was I wrong to cut him off when he was desperate? I don't know. Maybe you can tell me. Have you ever had to choose between family and self-preservation? Between being there for someone and protecting yourself? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let me know what city you're listening from. I'd love to see how far this story travels. Because here's what I learned. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let go. Sometimes saving yourself isn't selfish. It's the only surgery that matters. I sat there as the sun set coffee cooling in my hand, phone quiet beside me. Not waiting, not hoping for a call that would fix everything. Just present. Just free. Just myself finally. And that was more than enough. Looking back, I see a man who confused providing with loving. Don't make my mistake. Don't wait until you're 65 to learn that true love sometimes means saying no. These grandpa stories teach us something. This true story, my true story, is about learning that lesson too late. But maybe not too late for you. God gave us wisdom for a reason. God gave us strength to walk away when staying destroys us. And God in His grace gave me a second chance. Here's what I'd tell my younger self. Set boundaries early. Teach responsibility, not dependency. Protecting yourself isn't cruel, it's survival. My true story ends not with reconciliation, but with peace. Maybe that's enough. These grandpa stories aren't always happy. Sometimes they're about hard choices. But the best grandpa stories teach us that love without boundaries isn't love, it's just fear. If someone's draining you, using you, you're not selfish for choosing peace. Drop your story in the comments. Share this if it spoke to you. Subscribe for more true stories about hard choices. Sometimes the bravest thing is walking away, and sometimes that's exactly what God's been asking us to do all along.